Continuing from the previous episode 697. Chapter 1626, 1 against 2. Han Yuanshan? Xiao Yan merely smiled as he saw the two old men, whose body were covered with a rich deathly aura. One of them was Han Yuanshan, whose deathly silence gate had been snatched by Xiao Yan back then. Little bastard, you have ruined the plans of my Han clan. You must definitely die today. Han Yuantian's eyes were vicious as they stared at Xiao Yan. Back then, Xiao Yan had taken advantage of his carelessness to snatch the deathly silence gate, causing the death world to completely collapse. This had resulted in the Han clan's army to have no choice but to retreat. If it was not because of the current critical state of affairs, it was likely that he would be seriously punished for making such a big mistake even though he was considered a veteran. Even though this was the case, he was still frequently reprimanded by Han Tiandi during this period of time. Naturally, his hatred towards Xiao Yan was currently quite intense. Xiao Yan simply curled his mouth in the face of Han Yuanshan's vicious words. Immediately, he glanced at the two people in front of him. A grave expression flashed across his eyes. The Han clan had directly dispatched 2 8-star Do Shengs to hold him back. From this, it was obvious that the Han clan intended to kill him. Although it might be extremely troublesome for Xiao Yan to deal with this, it was also not a simple matter for the opponent to defeat him. After all, he was presently a genuine 7-star Do Sheng. Adding his D-state soul, his true fighting strength had far surpassed an ordinary 8-star Do Sheng. Although these two were cooperating, they might not be able to beat him. This thought appeared within Xiao Yan's heart. His eyes swiftly swept over the many intense battles throughout the entire Black Corner region. Wild and violent Do Qi spread as many figures fought each other, causing the sea of magma below to continuously emit many thousand feet large magma pillars. The battle is in a stalemate. However, my being able to hold back 2 of the other party's 8-star Do Sheng will greatly reduce the pressure on the Alliance army. The battle was at a stalemate while the sky was like a huge meat grinder. A continuous stream of experts from both parties spat out blood and fell into the magma below. The great heat below turned them into ashes. Little bastard, go and die. Han Yuandi's eyes became increasingly vicious as he looked at Xiao Yan. At the end, he finally could not resist the fury within his heart. With a stern cry, he swung his hand forward. That palm wind, which was covered with a deathly aura, was swung towards Xiao Yan. One sniff of that scent caused one to feel the life force within one's body to gradually disappear. You have really thought too highly of yourself. Xiao Yan laughed coldly after seeing Han Yuanshan attack. The purifying demonic lotus flame swept out from within his body like a storm. After which, it turned into a giant fire palm that forcefully received the attack by Han Yuanshan. That strange deathly aura of the other party had also been swiftly purified by the purifying strength of the purifying devouring lotus flame. Han Tiansheng, let's attack together and kill this brat. Han Tiandi's expression changed as the attack made contact. He could sense that the current Xiao Yan was actually much stronger than back then. After which, he hurriedly cried out. The other dark and icy-faced 8-star Do Sheng old man also nodded after hearing his cry. The former flashed and appeared behind Xiao Yan. Deathly aura lingered over his finger before it was pressed forward ruthlessly. Death God Finger. Get lost! The huge black finger broke through the space. It was just about to touch Xiao Yan when the latter threw a punch backwards. A terrifying firestorm was formed under his fist as it whistled forward and directly struck onto the huge black finger. King Kong glass body. Xiao Yan suddenly cried out loud after he threw a punch. His body suddenly swelled to 1,000 feet. Bright golden light surged out from within his body. Extermination fire body. The King Kong glass body had just been unleashed when Xiao Yan once again acted with lightning-like speed. Purifying demonic lotus flame wildly shot out from within his body. His huge body also quickly became crystal clear. 2 body-strengthening Do Qi were unleashed simultaneously. This was something that only Xiao Yan could do after having stepped into the D-state soul. Xiao Yan's aura had become violent and sharp after 2 body-strengthening Do Qi were unleashed together. His large hand was swung and a palm slammed towards Han Yuanshan. At the same time, he also flicked his finger. Yellow Spring Palm, Great Heaven Creation Palm, Yellow Spring Finger. 3 different Do skills were formed under Xiao Yan's palm at almost the same time. After which, they violently smashed angrily towards Han Yuanshan. Even Han Yuanshan involuntarily had a change in expression after seeing these attacks from Xiao Yan. This ability to use multiple Do Qi together was something that even he did not have. Death Tomb. Dense deathly aura wildly surged out from within Han Yuanshan's body. Finally, it turned into a 10,000 feet large black tomb in front of him. There was a sharp sound resounding from the tomb. Bang bang bang. Many Tien-class Do skills descended from the sky and violently crashed onto the huge black tomb. Huge energy waves spread, causing the space within 10,000 feet to collapse into a dark black void. Faced with this wild and violent explosion, the deathly aura on the black tomb also rapidly disappeared. Finally, a bang sounded and it exploded apart. Xiao Yan was just about to continue giving chase after glancing at the collapsed tomb when his ear moved. He suddenly turned. His huge fist reflexively smashed ruthlessly onto the space behind him. Bang! The space rippled and a giant black stone pillar broke out from it. It collided heavily with Xiao Yan's fist. Immediately, a loud and clear sound appeared. Xiao Yan and the stone pillar were sent flying backwards. Xiao Yan's body took over a dozen steps back before he stabilized himself. A sweetness rose from his throat. However, this was quickly swallowed by him. The strength of Han Shengtian was even stronger than Han Yuanshan. He had also used his full strength when he attacked. However, this kind of collision might have caused Xiao Yan to feel a little terrible, but he did not appear to be in a good condition either. Xiao Yan lifted his eyes. He looked at Han Tiansheng, who had appeared with a stone pillar in his hand. The latter's face was flush red. Even his aura had started to fluctuate intensely. Damn brat. No wonder you were able to snatch the deathly silence gate from Han Yuanshan's hands. Han Shengtian stared densely at Xiao Yan and spoke in a low and deep voice. It is becoming increasingly difficult to deal with this brat. Let's attack together and exhaust him to death. Han Yuanshan flashed and appeared beside Han Shengtian before speaking in a dense voice. Xiao Yan laughed coldly after hearing these words. He waved his hand and a black light cluster suddenly appeared in it. Finally, it was transformed into a huge giant black gate. It was surprisingly the deathly silence gate. Go it! Xiao Yan waved his sleeve after summoning the deathly silence gate. An intense suction force immediately surged out from within the gate and dragged Han Yuanshan duo into it. Brat, you actually dared to deliver yourself to us. Han Yuanshan duo's eyes brightened after seeing Xiao Yan taking out the deathly silence gate. They did not even put up a resistance as they used the suction force to charge into the deathly silence gate. A cold smile flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes after seeing the actions of those two. He would naturally not repeat the same foolish mistake that Han Yuanshan had once made. Han Yuanshan duo appeared within the deathly silence gate. However, they were hurrying to look for the spiritual stone to remove Xiao Yan's spiritual imprint when they suddenly discovered that this deathly silence gate was actually filled with a monstrous flame. Something's wrong. Let's escape. The expressions of Han Yuanshan duo changed upon seeing the pink flame that spread over the place. This deathly silence gate had already been meddled with by Xiao Yan. Bang bang! However, the both of them had just pulled back when the purifying demonic lotus flame around them surged over from all directions. The flame turned into many fire dragons that bite wildly at the duo. Boom! Han Yuanshan duo waved their sleeves. Mighty Do Qi pillars scattered the fire dragons that pounced onto them. Their bodies flashed and they appeared at the entrance to the deathly silence world. A 10,000 feet figure suddenly firmly blocked the exit when the two of them appeared in front of the entrance to deathly silence world. Soon after, a terrifying spiritual sonic wave suddenly struck at them. Mo! 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 3 continuous yellow spring divine anger were unleashed. That terrifying spiritual sonic wave attack directly sent Han Yuanshan duo flying backwards by 10,000 feet. This wild attack caused their souls to become a little giddy. Since you have entered, you can forget about leaving. Xiao Yan's icy cold laughter rumbled throughout the deathly silence gate. The seal formed by his hands changed and many 6-colored flames, which were filled with an extermination force, swiftly appeared in his palm. Finally, they continuously flew into the deathly silence gate. The fire lotus came one after another. They floated in the air of the deathly silence gate but did not attack Han Yuanshan duo. Instead, they were being gathered one after another. Within that short moment of time, there was already 10 extermination fire lotus. This number caused the expressions of Han Yuanshan duo to change. They were not afraid of one extermination fire lotus. However, if 10 of them were added together and exploded within this confined space, even the 2 of them would not be able to endure it. Charge out of here. The both of them exchanged glances and clenched their teeth. Immediately, they turned into 2 rays of light that shot towards the exit with lightning-like speed. They decided to endure Xiao Yan's yellow spring divine anger and charge out from the deathly silence gate. It's too late. Xiao Yan merely smiled coldly as he watched the action of those 2. He threw another 3 extermination fire lotus inside. After which, a thought passed through his mind and all the extermination fire lotus within the deathly silence gate wildly exploded at this moment. Moreover, Xiao Yan suddenly slammed his palm onto the deathly silence gate when the extermination fire lotus exploded. The spiritual imprint on the spiritual stone had also been blasted apart. Bang! The deathly silence gate suddenly unleashed waves of black fog as the spiritual stone broke. After which, the space itself also began to collapse at this moment. An indescribable destructive force crazily swept towards Han Yuan duo with the exterminating strength of the fire lotus explosion. He had let the deathly silence gate self-destruct. An extreme shock and heartache rose onto Han Yuanshan's eyes after he saw this scene. He had been building this deathly silence gate for hundreds of years. Yet, Xiao Yan had simply commanded it to self-destruct. BNAG. However, that terrifying force had already come striking at him while this thought flashed across his mind. It directly devoured the both of them. Xiao Yan watched the deathly silence gate that had exploded wildly from the sky. His body swiftly pulled back and wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. This time around, these 2 old undying demons would be seriously injured even if they did not die. How can it be so easy to snatch it back? A low and cold laughter sounded. Xiao Yan's heart shook as he turned towards the sea of magma below. An incomparably large swirl had appeared at that spot. It was as though something was about to appear. Ancient God Mansion, is it finally about to surface? Xiao Yan's eyes became increasingly icy cold as he watched this scene. Continuing from the previous episode 698. Chapter 1627. Appearance of the mansion. Giant waves was suddenly formed on the spacious magma sea. A 10,000 feet large whirlpool was slowly formed on the surface of the sea of magma. There seemed to be something appearing from the end of the whirlpool. A kind of mysterious fluctuation rippled throughout the place. The unexpected occurrence that had happened on the magma attracted the attention of many. Immediately, a shocked expression surged on their faces. Xiao Yan's eyes were grave as they looked at the churning magma whirlpool below. A rich caution rose deep within his eyes. He did not forget that there was a mysterious creature guarding the ancient God Mansion. If that thing came charging out, there was no predicting what kind of drastic change would occur in this battle. Kai, while Xiao Yan had poured all of his attention into staring at the magma whirlpool, the space a short distance behind him suddenly shook. A miserable old figure appeared. The dense deathly aura, which had originally covered his body, had faded greatly. Clearly, he was seriously injured. He is actually still alive? Xiao Yan turned his head after detecting this person. He looked at the weary old man and a surprise involuntarily flashed across his eyes. However, a cold smile appeared after his eyes swept towards a figure grabbed in Han Tiansheng's hand. That fellow with an unknown fate was naturally Han Yuanshan. Xiao Yan had used over a dozen extermination fire lotus and explode the deathly silence gate. With the superimposition of the 2, the destructive force created was frightening enough to cause only to tremble from a feeling a chill. Even though Han Yuanshan duo were 8-star elite Do Sheng, they still ended up with 1 dead and 1 seriously injured. Han Shuntian, who had appeared, spat out a mouthful of fresh blood before looking at Xiao Yan a short distance away with a terrified face. Although there was still a vicious expression flashing in his eyes, he also understood that he was likely unable to fight with Xiao Yan in his current condition. He immediately clenched his teeth and dragged his seriously injured body and quickly withdraw. Xiao Yan glanced at Han Tiansheng, who had escaped, but did not give chase. Although he had schemed and managed to seriously injure one party while killing the other, the exhaustion he had experienced could also not be underestimated. Moreover, the 2 Shi ancient God Mansion was about to appear. Most of his attention was diverted to it. Even though Han Shengtian was able to escape, he was unable to participate in the battle. Splash splash. The huge magma whirlpool rotated with an increasingly great intensity. Earth-shaking splashing sound reverberated across the sky. Bang! A loud sound suddenly appeared in the sky. Soon after, miserable figures pulled back. Two of them were in an extreme dire state. The deathly aura that lingered over them had almost completely disappeared. Their fighting strength had also become much weaker. It was really a joke for them to block Ji Yuan with their strength. As long as the attack from that kind of expert managed to make even the slightest contact with them, they would end up being seriously injured. Nihility, sir, we cannot stop him. The two individuals with deathly aura around them had pale faces as they looked at the Nihility devouring flame beside them, who had a somewhat chaotic black flame, and cried out. The black flame within the Nihility devouring flame's eyes rippled slightly. Some dissatisfaction flashed across his eyes. It was unexpected that he was still unable to fight against Ji Yuan despite his soul having advanced to the D state. Ji Yuan also appeared a short distance from the trio. His eyes were cold and indifferent as they glanced at them. If it was not because the soul of the Nihility devouring flame had reached the D state, he would have already killed the other two. Otherwise, how could they have been allowed to remain alive until now? However, he also understood that the reason the Nihility devouring flame had fought with all their strength was merely to obstruct him. Han Tiandi, Ji Yuan lifted his head. He looked at the figure controlling the two Shi ancient god Jade. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he stepped forward. The space fluctuated and he appeared behind Han Tiandi. A world tide surged. Finally, it turned into a huge tidal palm that fiercely smashed towards Han Tiandi. Bang! Han Tiandi laughed loudly in the face of Ji Yuan's attack. A palm was struck forward and the space was shattered. He directly received Ji Yuan's palm strike head-on. Ji Yuan, it's too late. Next, let's wait for the two Shi ancient god mansion to appear. Han Tiandi swiftly pulled back. His hand was still tightly grabbing onto the two Shi ancient god Jade. Ji Yuan's expression sunk as he heard Han Tiandi's words. His eyes glanced at the magma sea below and found that the whirlpool on the magma sea had suddenly expanded 10 times. Bang bamg bang. After the whirlpool was expended, a 10,000 feet large magma fire pillar suddenly spat out from the magma sea in all directions. Many from both parties were caught in it. The extreme heat and offensive strength immediately resulted in deaths from both parties. Han Tiandi revealed an increasing wild joy in his eyes as he looked at the giant waves appearing on the surface of the magma. He could detect that the two Shi ancient god Jade in his hand had suddenly become strangely hot. Splash! The 10,000 feet large magma wave rose suddenly before it came smashing down ruthlessly. It caused magma to splash across the sky. That rapidly rotating magma whirlpool also gradually slowed. A huge magma began to protrude from the surface of the magma sea as the rotation speed slowed. Bright red magma scattered. After which, an ancient stone door slowly rose from the magma and stood in the sky in front of the many heated pairs of eyes. The magma on the stone door swiftly disappeared. An ancient and desolate aura immediately filled this world. Everything was silence under this aura. Even those as strong as Ji Yuan or Han Tiandi felt a terror from within their hearts. It was an aura that stood above this world. Countless pairs of eyes gathered onto the ancient stone door. Finally, these eyes focused on the 3 ancient words on the stone door. Ancient God Mansion. Han Tiandi's eyes had unleashed a terrifying light at this moment. Even his calmness, his heart involuntarily pounded when he personally saw the words that he had pursued for thousands of years. I have finally found you. Han Tiandi muttered to himself. Finally, he involuntarily faced the sky and laughed wildly. His laughter was like thunder as it reverberated across the sky. Is this the legendary ancient god cave? Ji Yuan was a little absent-minded. He was startled as he looked at the ancient stone door that stood quietly on the magma. The aura on it allowed him to understand that this was not some fake object. Instead, it was a genuine Do-D object. Only something that was left behind by the legendary Do-D could cause him to feel extremely frightened. Ji Yuan recovered a moment later after seeing the quiet and unmoving ancient stone door. His eyes contained a somewhat complicated feeling. The 8 ancient clans had engaged in multiple chaotic battles for this ancient god mansion. It was unexpected that it could be summoned thousands of years later, when only 4 of the 8 clans remained. The enormous ancient stone door stood on the magma. Everyone appeared exceptionally tiny in front of its giant size. In their eyes, This stone door appeared as though it belonged to another world and was unusually mysterious. Hu! Xiao Yan let out a long breath. Although this was already the second time he had seen the ancient stone door, there was still some shock in his heart. He could detect that the closer he was to the stone door, the greater the pressure he felt. Based on his guess, there was likely very few people amongst everyone present who could head to the front of the stone door. The ancient god cave has already appeared. It is likely that Han Tiandi will act to snatch the embryonic D pill. However, why has that mysterious creature not appear? A light flashed within Xiao Yan's eyes as they cautiously swept over the magma sea. Due to the appearance of the ancient stone door, the entire sea region seemed to have been enveloped by a strange pressure. Under this pressure, even Xiao Yan's D-state soul was unable to probe the activity within the magma. Han Tiandi inhaled a couple of deep breaths as he stood in the sky. Only then did he suppressing the churning emotions within his heart. Immediately, he slowly raised the two-she ancient god jade in his hand. The ancient jade vaguely had a light flowing over it. During the time that a light was flickering over the ancient jade, there also seemed to be a light flickering over the tightly shut ancient stone wall. That ancient door, which had been tightly shut for 10,000 years, seemed to show signs of being about to open. Han Tiandi seemed to rejoice upon seeing this scene. Before he could open his stride and advance, a figure came hurrying over and attempted to snatch the ancient jade from his hand. Ji Yuan, are you unable to hold back any longer? Han Tiandi laughed coldly upon seeing this. His body flashed and he appeared in the distance, dodging Ji Yuan in the process. How can it be so simple to open the mansion? Ji Yuan laughed coldly. His body flashed again and it closely followed Han Tiandi like a shadow. It did not give him any time to open the mansion. Murderous intent surged within Han Tiandi's eyes as he saw Ji Yuan continued to pester him. His strength was comparable to that of Ji Yuan. If the latter insist on pestering him, he would really be unable to divert his attention. Many pairs of eyes looked at the two light figures that seemed to be moving together in the sky. All of them could only clench their hands and stare. They were unable to intervene in a fight on that level. Splash splash. Xiao Yan glanced at the battle in the sky. His ear suddenly moved as he heard some intense magma churning sound. Immediately, he turned his eyes towards the sea of magma, only to see that it was calm and seemingly void of ripples. This scene caused Xiao Yan to frown. However, he did not shift his eyes away. His gaze stared intently at the surface of the magma. This silence continued for a couple of minutes before he suddenly shrank his eyes. A stern cry sounded. Get far away from the magma. Hurry! 100,000 feet giant waves suddenly rose on the calm magma sea as this sharp cry sounded. Soon after, an earth-shaking roar resounded over this place in a mighty fashion. The expressions of Ji Yuan and Han Tiandi changed abruptly after this roar that seemed to have originated from the ancient times was emitted. This aura was actually not weaker than them. Ha 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 ha! This emperor is finally able to see the sky again. The 100,000 feet magma shot to the sky as a ferocious aura, which caused the weather to change, erupted from within the sea of magma. Continuing from the previous episode 699. Chapter 1628. Crisis. The bright red magma seemed to have devoured the world. At a glance, it appeared as though the entire world was filled by 100,000 feet magma. A terrifyingly high temperature had turned this entire world into a furnace. Both armies were forced to hastily withdraw because of the monstrous huge magma wave. Many pairs of eyes were shocked as they looked under the magma. At this moment, even they were able to sense an extremely terrifying creature hidden under the sea of magma. Ji Yuan and Han Tiandi had also halted because of this scene. Their eyes cautiously looked towards the magma sea. Even they could sense a danger under its powerful aura. It seems that Xiao Yan is indeed right. There is indeed a mysterious creature guarding the ancient god mansion. Ji Yuan's face was solemn as his eyes flickered. Rumble. The magma waterfall that rose to the air descended abruptly and landed into the magma sea. It turned into a huge wave that quickly spread apart and covered the distant mountain. With the fall of the giant wave, a huge creature suddenly rose from within the sea of magma. Although it was only a small portion of the creature's body, it was still extremely big. The mysterious creature's head, which vaguely contained a ferocious and pressuring aura, rose from under the magma and looked at the many people in the sky. Those huge eyes had a surprise flashing across them. It is unexpected that there is really someone who has obtained the two she ancient god jade and summoned the ancient god mansion from that damn place. The mysterious creature's huge eyes swept over the sky. Finally, they paused on Ji Yuan and Han Tiandi duo. Although there were many people in this world, only these two were worthy of being treated seriously by him. Ji Yuan and Han Tiandi's eyes were grave and cautious as they looked at the mysterious creature. Even with the experience that the both of them had, they were still unable to identify this enormous creature. After all, they had only seen a small section of this mysterious creature. I am the clan head of the Ji clan, Ji Yuan. May I know who? Ji Yuan cupped his hands together towards this mysterious creature and spoke in a deep voice. Han Tiandi by the side was also afraid that Ji Yuan would cooperate with that mysterious creature. Immediately, he cupped his hands together and uttered his identity. His tone was exceptionally courteous. Ji clan? Han clan? It seems like two factions that were not considered big back then. It is unexpected that you were able to obtain the two she ancient god jade. That mysterious creature emitted a deafening roar after hearing the both of them speak. It caused the surface of the magma to rise and formed many magma fire pillars. Ji Yuan and Han Tiandi were startled upon hearing these words. Based on those words, it seemed that this creature had existed for a long time. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Han clan and the Ji clan were indeed not considered some top factions. Oh, who has summoned the ancient god mansion? Come to think of it, this emperor does owe him a favor. That mysterious creature once again asked without being concerned about the shock of those two. Ji Yuan and Han Tiandi had a change of expression upon hearing this. The formers became uglier while the latter rejoiced. Ha ha, this friend, the ancient jade is in my hand. Naturally, only I am able to summon the ancient god mansion. Han Tiandi stepped forward and laughed. The mysterious creature glanced at Han Tiandi. Suddenly, an intense light surged. Immediately, its incomparably huge body suddenly shrunk. Within a short instant, it had turned into a purple golden-haired middle-aged man. He lifted his head. Those eyes of his were filled with a rich pressure as they stared at Han Tiandi. He laughed faintly and said, I have received your favor and ought to aid you. However, I currently have other things to do. Therefore, we will settle this in the future. Ji Yuan quickly sighed in relief while the face of Han Tiandi by the side involuntarily twitched. A chill flowed deep within those eyes. If it was not because he was afraid of the terrifying strength of the mysterious person, it was likely that he would have already given the order to kill it. That middle-aged man ignored Han Tiandi after he finished speaking. His golden eyes suddenly swept over the sky. After which, they paused on one of the figures. An icy cold expression immediately flashed across both of his eyes. Xiao Yan in the sky wore a cautious expression. His face was slightly altered after he saw that this mysterious person had actually threw his eyes towards him. Could it be that this fellow still remembered him? Brat, come over. The middle-aged man looked towards Xiao Yan. He extended his large hand and a dragon roar appeared. Subsequently, a golden large claw broke through the air and struck towards Xiao Yan. Damn it! Xiao Yan's expression became unusually ugly after he saw that this fellow had simply attacked as he liked. His body hurriedly pulled back. At the same time, a spiritual figure appeared. The yellow spring divine anger was also quickly unleashed. Mo! The spiritual sonic wave ruthlessly smashed onto the large golden claw. However, the latter did not move. Mister, may I know how has Xiao Yan offended you? Ji Yuan's expression also changed upon seeing this scene. He hurriedly cried out, Humph, my target is him alone. I will fight you if you intervene. The mysterious person cried out in an icy cold voice after hearing Ji Yuan's cry. He had detected the scent of his child from Xiao Yan's blood a couple of days ago. That bloodline strength was unique to their tribe. Yet, Xiao Yan was clearly a genuine human when one looked at him. In that case, there was only one answer. He had once devoured and refined his child's bloodline strength. His child might have even been killed by this person. The ferocious expression within this mysterious person's eyes had become extremely dense the moment he thought of this. Ha ha, Ji Yuan, it seems that even the heavens aren't helping you. Han Tiandi was also startled because of this scene. However, he quickly recovered and involuntarily laughed out loud. Ji Yuan's face was furious green. Although he was unaware of why this mysterious person would target Xiao Yan, the latter was ultimately a member of the Alliance army. Moreover, Xiao Yan was also Ji Yuan's son-in-law. Naturally, it was impossible for Ji Yuan to simply watch him be killed by this mysterious person. He immediately cried out furiously, "Stop him!" Lei Ying and the rest from the Alliance army clenched their teeth upon hearing Ji Yuan's voice. They could only summon their courage and attack. Xiao Yan was not an ordinary character. He was not someone whom they could simply abandon. Hence, they could not choose to stand idly by the side and do nothing. Humph! Rushing wind sound appeared from around the mysterious person as the latter attacked Xiao Yan. The mysterious person snorted coldly. He suddenly lifted his head. A roar, which caused even the world to tremble, wildly swept apart. Bang bang! Lei Ying, who had just charged forward, had not had the time to attack when he was struck by the terrifying sonic wave. Immediately, he was shot backwards. Blood continuously churned in his body while his face was covered with shock. "Brat, hand over your life." That mysterious figure flashed and appeared in front of Xiao Yan, who was pulling back. His hand grabbed towards Xiao Yan's head. Bang! A huge 9-colored light suddenly flashed across the sky when the mysterious person was attacking. It surrounded Xiao Yan's body and quickly withdrew. 9-colored heaven-swallowing python? It is unexpected that there are still heaven-swallowing pythons still existing in this world. That mysterious person was startled because of this scene. His eyes looked at the 9-colored giant python in the sky and exclaimed in surprise. Gold Emperor incinerating heaven execution. The golden flame spread throughout the sky amidst a roar. Finally, it turned into a golden light beam that was tens of thousands of feet in size. Finally, it smashed ruthlessly towards that mysterious person. Bang! The mysterious person threw a punch forward in the face of this attack. That ordinary palm wind immediately shattered the light ray when the punch was thrown. Insignificant attack. The punch shattered the ray of light. That mysterious person smiled faintly. Immediately, his golden eyes looked towards Xiao Yan in the distance. He opened his stride and appeared in front of the latter in a ghost-like fashion. "You won't be able to escape." The ferocious expression within the mysterious person's eyes suddenly soared as he looked at Xiao Yan, who was a short distance away. Purple gold light appeared, after which, it struck towards Xiao Yan and Xuan beside him. "Go!" The light came striking over. After which, the surrounding space was directly sealed. Xiao Yan's expression changed drastically. Immediately, a crazy expression suddenly rose into his eyes. His palm smashed onto Xuan beside him and a huge force shattered the area around the light seal. His body began to swell rapidly. He was actually planning on self-destructing his physical body. Although the self-destruct of one's physical body would not lead to one's death once one reached Xiao Yan's level, it would still result in an extremely great harm. It might even affect Xiao Yan's foundation. However, he did not have any choice at this moment. "Don't!" Xuan expression quickly paled after seeing this scene. Her originally cool and cold voice had suddenly become sharp. "Damn brat, you are really ruthless." That mysterious person was also startled by Xiao Yan's ruthlessness. However, his attack did not weaken. Xiao Yan's body swelled rapidly. Just when his body was about to collapse, a light seal on his hand suddenly unleashed a brilliant luster. The dragon seal Zi Yan had left on him allowed the both of them to detect if the other was in a dangerous situation. "Xiao Yan, don't self-destruct." An anxious female voice was suddenly emitted from within the flickering light seal. After which, a bright golden light suddenly surged from the dragon seal. It quickly wrapped around Xiao Yan's body and suppressed his symptoms of being about to self-destruct. Kai! The space in front of Xiao Yan swiftly split and formed a huge crack line after Xiao Yan's self-destruct was suppressed. Bright golden light erupted. Finally, it turned into a huge golden dragon. The dragon curled and swiftly wrapped around Xiao Yan. "Zi Yan, give way!" Xiao Yan's expression changed drastically after he saw the huge dragon, which had suddenly broke out from the space. Given Zi Yan's strength, her body would be instantly shattered into a pool of blood if that attack firmly struck onto her body. The large purple gold seal, which was filled with a terrifying strength, suddenly appeared above the head of the huge dragon in front of the shocked eyes of the Alliance army and the wild joy of the Han clan. However, the huge seal suddenly halted just when everyone thought that blood would splatter. The light seal rapidly collapsed. Light shot out in all directions and shone onto that mysterious person's face. His body had begun to shudder as though he was suffering from a stroke. Child. Continuing from the previous episode 700. Chapter 1629. Old Dragon Emperor. The purple gold light seal was suspended over the huge dragon's head. Even Ziyan could only shut her eyes in the face of the great destructive force. However, when she was prepared to endure this sudden extermination-like assault when the light seal came to a sudden halt. Panting sounds suddenly appeared across the sky as everyone watched the still light seal above the huge dragon's head. Some of the experts from the Hun clan revealed disappointed expressions. Bastard. Ji Yuan's expression had become relatively ugly. He clenched his teeth and his body flashed. After which, he gave up on dealing with Han Tiandi and appeared in front of the mysterious person. He waved his sleeve and a powerful wind forced Ziyan and Xiaoyan back. Both of his eyes contained some fury as he looked at the mysterious person in front of him and demanded in a deep voice, "Aren't you a little overboard to use a fatal attack the moment you strike?" That mysterious person acted as though he did not hear Ji Yuan's words. His eyes were stunned as they stared at the large golden dragon wrapped around Xiaoyan. He could sense an extremely familiar bloodline scent from within the golden dragon's body. That was a bloodline from the same ancestry. The only one in this world who could possess it was the child of his from back then. Child. Those golden eyes of that mysterious man, which were originally filled with a monstrous-like ferocity, had become gentle at that moment. His heart, which had been calm and quiet for countless of years, suddenly pounded intensely. His eyes stared at Ziyan as he muttered. Ji Yuan was startled upon seeing this fellow's expression. He frowned and asked, "Who is your child?" The huge golden dragon shrunk swiftly. Finally it turned into a purple-haired lady with a graceful figure. Her pretty eyes were a little furious as he glared at the mysterious person. After which, she supported Xiaoyan beside her and asked, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. Why have you come?" Xiaoyan wiped off the trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. He glanced at Ziyan beside him and involuntarily asked with a bitter smile, "How dare you ask me this? Such a big matter has occurred, yet you did not inform my ancient void dragon tribe." Ziyan's eyebrows were straightened when this was mentioned. Finally she spoke angrily, "This matter is far too big. If your ancient void dragon tribe is dragged into it and something unexpected occurs, you will have difficulty surviving." Xiaoyan sighed. Given the Hun clan's character, which faction on this continent would be able to survive independently if they managed to obtain the ancient god mansion? Ziyan rolled her eyes towards Xiaoyan. She quickly looked at the mysterious person, who was blocked by Ji Yuan. With a frown, she asked, "Who is this person? What terrifying strength? However, this aura of his seems a little familiar." Her final sentence was extremely soft. After all, she did not remember that she was once acquainted with such a powerful person. "The guardian of the ancient god mansion. I do not know why he is insisting on killing me." Xiaoyan laughed bitterly. He had merely barged into that realm below and did not have any deep hatred with this person. Hence, he was completely unable to comprehend the mysterious person's murderous intent. Things are a little troublesome. Ziyan sighed. Her hand gently drew across the space in front of her. A spatial crack was formed. One could hear the sound of rushing wind from within it. Soon after, many figures came rushing out. They were surprisingly the elders of the ancient void dragon tribe. "Although my ancient void dragon is no longer as strong as when it was at its peak, we will definitely repay the great favor you have bestowed upon our ancient dragon tribe. This time around, we will use all of our strength to help you." Xiaoyan widened his mouth after seeing the many elders from the ancient void dragon tribe. He sighed and gravely cupped his hands together towards these people. A mere thanks does not do justice to such a big favor. Xiaoyan will remember the help you have lent me today. Ha ha. Mr. Xiaoyan is too courteous. If you had not intervened time and time again, how would our ancient dragon tribe get the chance to unite? The many elders immediately cupped their hands together and courteously said after hearing Xiaoyan's words. Ha ha, this friend. If you wish to kill that brat, I can help you block this Ji Yuan. Han Tiandi looked at the mysterious person facing off against Ji Yuan. His heart involuntarily rejoiced as he laughed. Ji Yuan's expression immediately changed upon hearing those words. Stop being a busybody. That mysterious person, who was originally extremely fierce, suddenly cried coldly towards Han Tiandi as Ji Yuan's expression changed. You, seeing that his friendly attempt was met with a cold response, Han Tiandi involuntarily became furious despite his control over himself. However, he quickly suppressed it. A dense expression flashed across his eyes. Zhu Huo, you little brat. Do you still remember this emperor? That mysterious person turned his head after forcing Han Tiandi back with his words. His eyes turned towards the ancient dragon tribe's elder and cried out in a deep voice. Arrogant fellow, that group of ancient void dragon tribe elder was immediately greatly furious. This fellow was actually putting them down with his words. That mysterious person was startled after being furiously chided by these elders. He immediately felt neither able to laugh nor cry. It had been so many years. Even with the lifespan of the ancient dragon tribe, it was likely that very few could live until now. The person standing at the leader's spot amongst the many elders was currently the oldest first elder of the ancient void dragon tribe. He was also the Zhu Huo that the mysterious person had mentioned. His eyes were currently a little stunned as he looked at the mysterious person. Those turbid eyes of his were a little lost in deep thought. The ancient void dragon tribe had not had a dragon emperor for a long time. This emperor is the true current dragon emperor of the ancient void dragon tribe. Ziyan's face was also a little icy as she spoke in a faint voice. Oh! Seeing Ziyan opened her mouth, the mysterious person, who had a face filled with might and dignity earlier, immediately became stunned. Ji Yuan had expected him to attack and hurt someone when he surprisingly rubbed his hands together in embarrassment. He nodded repeatedly, you are correct. It is right for you to become the Dragon Emperor. You should be the Dragon Emperor. Everyone, including Ziyan, was stunned upon seeing his appearance. They quickly revealed some strange expression. This fellow was really strange. This elder, today is the big war between our alliance army and the Han clan. I hope that you can stand idly by the side and not intervene. This Yan's expression softened as she said, not intervene? All right. I will do as you say. He, can you allow me to get a little closer? That mysterious person nodded without hesitation after hearing this. After which, he uttered those words with a straight face. Nothing in his current behavior displayed the demeanor of an extremely skilled person from earlier. Everyone felt as though they had been struck by lightning after hearing this mysterious request. Some black lines appeared on her forehead. However, she could only nod her head due to the other part's terrifying strength. Ji Yuan's group around frowned deeply upon seeing Fellow's sudden strange behavior. However, they involuntarily sighed in relief after seeing that this person did not have any murderous intent. Regardless of what the situation was, it was best not to be enemies with this person. That mysterious person's figure appeared in front of Ziyan in an instant after he had obtained permission to do so. His eyes swept over that beautiful face. That hard face of his revealed a complicated smile as he sighed softly, you look a lot like your mother. You have seen my mother? Ziyan's expression was quickly altered after hearing these words. She looked at the man in front of her in disbelief. When her eyes clearly saw the pair of golden eyes, a strange feeling suddenly rose from deep within her heart. This kind of unusual feeling caused Ziyan's delicate body to suddenly tremble. Her silver teeth gently bit her red lips. Suddenly, she extended her hand and grabbed the hand of the person in front of her. Bright golden light suddenly erupted from within both of their bodies the moment their hands made contact. Finally, the light merged perfectly at the point where their hands were in contact. A kind of extremely terrifying pressure vaguely spread. Bam! The many elders from the ancient dragon tribe behind Ziyan immediately knelt. That kind of pressure caused them to be unable to even retaliate. Ziyan was startled as she looked at the golden light, which entwined perfectly with each other. Great ripples appeared in her eyes. An instant later, she suddenly withdrew her hand as though she had suffered from an electric shock. Her pretty eyes stared at the gentle-looking man in front of her and her eyes became icy. Xiao Yan, who was standing behind Ziyan, seemed to have comprehended something after seeing this scene. He could sense a bloodline strength completely similar to that of Ziyan. It was likely that there was a blood relation between the two. Moreover, this relationship could very be father and daughter. It was very likely that this mysterious person was the old dragon emperor of the ancient void dragon tribe who had been missing for thousands of years. No wonder he was planning to kill me. It is actually because my body possessed the ancient dragon essence blood that Ziyan had once given me. Only at this moment did he understand why this fellow was insisting on chasing him. However, from the looks of Ziyan's expression, it seemed that he was not overly excited. Nevertheless, Xiao Yan could sense the huge wave churning in her heart. Child. The purple gold-haired man was a little helpless as he looked at Zi Yan's face, which had suddenly turned icy cold. He clearly did not have much experience with regards to this. He could only continuously rub his hand and looked at Zi Yan. He was completely unaware of how he should speak. I am an orphan. I do not have father and mother. Zi Yan spoke in a cold voice. However, his voice caused one to feel a heartache. Xiao Yan sighed. Zi Yan back then was living alone in the deep mountains of the Black Corner region. Although her talent was outstanding, her life was ultimately not good. Subsequently, she had accidentally eaten an unripe body-transforming grass. Only then was she brought to the inner academy by First Elder Su Qian. However, she continued to remain lonely. She gradually began to have friends only after meeting Xiao Yan. Now that he thought about it, that greedy and intelligent little girl had a heartache that no one knew. The purple-haired lady stood in front of him. Some tears disappointingly rolled down her eyes as she spoke. Father. She had once greatly anticipated this scene. It's my fault. It's my fault. I should not be greedy for the ancient god mansion. It is all because of that bastard too, she ancient god. He had schemed against me and caused me to be trapped for such a long time. That stern-looking purple gold-haired man panicked after seeing the tears within Zi Yan's eyes. He tried to stumble forward. Child, stop crying, stop crying. It is all my fault. Father will listen to you no matter what you say in the future. I can swear if you don't believe me. Xiao Yan sighed in relief within his heart when he saw this peak expert, who had once shook the entire continent, acting in such a helpless manner. It seemed that he really did care greatly about Zi Yan. The surrounding people were also completely quiet. Clearly, they did not know just what was happening. Those elders from the head all become stunned. A thought that caused them to tremble surged within their hearts. Zi Yan gently inhaled. Her eyes were red as she stared at the somewhat straightforward middle-aged man, who originally had an extremely mighty aura, rubbing his hands in front of her. Suddenly, she extended her finger and pointed at Hun Tiandi in the distance. Her noise had some sound as she said, "In that case, can you kill him?" All right. The middle-aged man was startled after hearing this. Immediately, a ferocious expression suddenly rose within his eyes. Continuing from the previous episode 701. Chapter 1630. Ancient God Mansion appears. The Alliance army became stunned as they saw a monstrous ferocious aura once again surging onto the middle-aged man. On the Hun clan's side, their originally gloating expression had immediately become ugly. Your Majesty, the former Dragon Emperor, is it really you? At this moment, Elder Zhu Luos, whose mind was blurry, had finally awakened. He had also found a face similar to the person in front of him from his distant memory. Immediately, his body trembled continuously from the excitement. Even his old tears had begun to flow. I have thought that you have completely forgotten about this emperor. The middle-aged man smiled and remarked after heading this. This little fellow don't dare to do so. Elder Zhu Huo shook his head repeatedly. Although his external appearance seemed even older, he understood that he was merely a youth back when Zi Yan's father was in charge of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. The other elders of the ancient Dragon tribe looked at each other. Excitement surged within their eyes. No one had expected the previous Dragon Emperor, who was rumored to be missing, would actually still be alive in this world. With this being the case, the strength of the ancient Void Dragon tribe would undoubtedly soar. Seeing this ending, which had suddenly become the meeting of long-lost kins, Xiao Yan could only smile bitterly and shake his head. Soon after, a joy rose within their hearts. It was unexpected that this mysterious expert and Zi Yan actually had such a relationship. In this way, the situation was going to be turned around. So you are the previous Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. Ji Yuan sighed after seeing that the atmosphere was quite good. He immediately cupped his hands together and laughed. Although I am older than you, one's strength is still the most important. You can call me Zhu Kun. That so-called previous Dragon Emperor did not put on airs when facing Ji Yuan. He merely waved his hand and said, Brother Zhu Kun. Ji Yuan revealed a smile on his face upon hearing this. He cupped his hands together. It was naturally extremely beneficial to be acquainted with such an expert. Your Majesty, Xiao Yan is a great benefactor of our ancient dragon tribe. He had rescued our tribe from many critical situations. Moreover, if it was not because of him, Yan would not have been able to safely return to our tribe. Eldad Zhu Huo stepped forward and spoke respectfully. Critical situation? How is the ancient Void Dragon tribe like now? Zhu Kun was startled upon hearing this. His expression quickly sunk. His era was the peak of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. There was hardly any factions on the continent who would dare to offend him. Elder Zhu Huo hesitated for a moment. After which, he roughly explained some of the incidents that had occurred after he, the Dragon Emperor, had gone missing. Zhu Kun's eyes had a fury flashing over his eyes after he heard the ancient dragon tribe was separated into 4. Clearly, he did not expect that these fellows, who had originally been extremely respectful towards him, would actually be so bold after he disappeared. It seems that I am really muddle-headed this time around. Fortunately, they did not make a big mistake. Some cold sweat had suddenly appeared on Zhu Kun's forehead after Zhu Huo roughly explained the situation. He smilingly looked at Xiao Yan. The expression on his face was extremely warm. It was completely different from his ferociousness from earlier. From what Zhu Huo had summarized, he could tell that Zi Yan had quite a good relationship with this Xiao Yan. Adding this to how Zi Yan had risked her life to protect Xiao Yan earlier, he understood that if any mishap had occurred to Xiao Yan today, it was likely that the matter would be difficult to resolve. Xiao Yan was a little speechless as he looked at the extremely warm face. At this moment, all he could do was to shake his head helplessly. He said, "Elder really knows how to joke. Calling me Elder makes us appear like strangers. You are good friends with Zi Yan. If you don't mind, you can call me Uncle." Zhu Kun waved his hand and hurriedly said. Xiao Yan was once again speechless. He featuring neither able to laugh nor cry as he cupped his hands together and called, "Uncle Zhu Kun." Zhu Kun smilingly nodded after seeing this. The corner of his eyes drifted towards Zi Yan, who had been quiet. His heart rejoiced a little after seeing that the latter's expression appeared to become somewhat warmer. "Ha ha! Since I have promised my daughter, I will have to take this fellow's life." Zhu Kun turned his head. His eyes looked at Han Tiandi some distance away before he spoke with a grin. Ji Yuan by the side involuntarily smiled. He looked at the extremely ugly expression of Han Tiandi. Suddenly, he had a relaxed feeling of wanting to laugh towards the sky. This was really the case of one's luck being changed. That fellow from earlier was attempting to add insult to injury earlier. However, he did not expect that the situation had been completely turned around in an instant. Based on his senses, Ji Yuan already understood that Zhu Kun was definitely not weaker than him. The latter was also at the advanced 9-star Do Shen class. With their strength combined, even Han Tiandi would suffer a miserable defeat. It had been many years since I have fought. It is really enjoyable for me to be able to encounter such a big battle immediately after I have been freed. Zhu Kun's body gradually floated. He clenched his fist. Purple golden luster slowly spread from within his body as he stared at Han Tiandi and laughed. Humph! Seeing this sudden change in the situation, Han Tiandi snorted coldly while wearing an ugly expression. The ancient jade in his hand suddenly unleashed a bright light pillar. The light pillar shot down from the sky. After which, it directly shot onto the ancient door. He had already used the full strength of the ancient jade. Bang! The ancient door, which had been shut for an extremely long time, suddenly began to shake under the light pillar. Traces of cracks began to appear. The cracks became increasingly huge. A moment later, the ancient stone door was slowly opened towards the side amidst a creaking sound. Kai, an ancient ripple, which seemed to have originated from the ancient times, suddenly rushed out from behind the ancient door the moment it was opened. Both armies seemed to have suffered a heavy blow under this ripple. Their formation was turned into a chaos. Some of the weaker individuals were being forced back by 100,000 feet. Be careful. Xiao Yan hurriedly stabilized his body after seeing the army formation being scattered by this wave. He quickly reminded in a deep voice. The ancient god mansion is about to be opened. Ji Yuan let out a low cry. His eyes stared intently at those ancient giant doors, which were slowly opening. Has it been finally opened? Zhu Kun was a little absent-minded as he watched this scene. He had tried all sorts of method to open the mansion while he was trapped in that space. However, they were to no avail. He was finally able to see this scene today. Bang bang bang! The ancient ripple became even more intense as the stone door was opened. At the end, there were very few experts from both parties who could still remain floating in the air. Ji Yuan, Do you know just what is inside the ancient god mansion? Zhu Kun in the sky watched the gradually opening ancient door before suddenly asking. I am not very certain. All I know is that the thing inside will allow one to advance to the Do D class. Ji Yuan hesitated for a moment before replying. It is indeed able to allow one to advance into the Do D class. This is because there is an embryonic D pill inside the mansion. If I guess correctly, this should be the target of Han Tiandi. If the latter could obtain it, it is very likely that he will advance into the Do D class. Zhu Kun said, Oh. Ji Yuan's expression was altered slightly after he heard this. Embryonic D pill. If this was really the case, it might really possess that unbelievable ability. We must not allow Han Tiandi to obtain the embryonic D pill. Otherwise, once he advanced into the Do D class, the Han clan will definitely not let us off, given their character. Ji Yuan spoke in a deep voice. Zhu Kun nodded. He also understood just how terrifying an elite Do D was. Just a realm that the Shi ancient god had used was able to trap him for thousands of years. From this alone, it was possible to tell that the so-called Do Sheng was perhaps just like an ant in the eyes of a genuine Do D. We will take the lead to charge in after the ancient god mansion is fully opened. As long as we are able to obtain the D-tier embryonic pill before Han Tiandi, it would not be too difficult for us to kill him given our strength. Zhu Kun said, We will do as Brother Zhu Kun suggests. The two of them came to a quick agreement. With Zhu Kun's help, Ji Yuan no longer needed to worry about being unable to deal with Han Tiandi. Xiao Yan smiled as he looked at Ji Yuan and Zhu Kun, who were standing proudly. With such an expert aiding them, the situation had been changed almost instantly. Xiao Yan gently exhaled. He turned his head to look at Zi Yan beside him. She was startled as she looked at Zhu Kun's back. From the looks of it, it seemed that she had not managed to recover from reality. Xiao Yan could only sigh softly in the face of this. Xiao Yan, do you think that I should recognize him? Zi Yan turned her head, looked at Xiao Yan and suddenly asked, If it is not because I was lucky back then, I would have already become the food of other magical beasts. You should just do what your heart tells you to. There are no parents who do not love their children in this world. I have been to the place where he was trapped at. It was a dark and lonely place. His life during these years was also likely quite hard. Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment before he spoke in an appropriate manner. He understood that Zi Yan felt a little lost at this father of hers who had suddenly appeared. She did not know how she should deal with this matter. Zi Yan nodded quietly but did not speak. Xiao Yan spread his hands and did not say anything more. Such matters must ultimately be resolved by Zi Yan. Rumble. The ripple emitted from huge ancient stone door became increasingly fierce while Xiao Yan was chatting with Zi Yan. The gap between the large doors became bigger and bigger when the fluctuation was emitted. At the end, it had finally completely stiffened under the loud sound. Bang! A fluctuation that seemed to have originated from the prehistoric times suddenly spread as the ancient stone doors were fully opened. The entire sea of magma had been blasted until huge waves were formed. The land trembled. Many 10,000 feet large deep abyss were formed. The purifying demonic lotus flame covered Xiao Yan's body. He did his best to reject that kind of prehistoric pressure. The entire area within a 50-kilometer radius seemed to only possess the top experts from both parties. The remaining individuals were forcefully scattered apart. Some strange ripples was suddenly formed over the ancient stone door. The space became distorted. That huge door seemed to have agglomerated into a seemingly transparent tunnel. Move! Ji Yuan and Zhu Kun rushed forward at the same time the moment the transparent tunnel was formed. Han Tiandi and the nihility devouring flame had also turned into two rays of light, which charged into the tunnel with lightning-like speed. We should also go. Xiao Yan let out a low cry after seeing this scene. He rushed forward with extreme speed, enduring the dense pressure and charged directly into the tunnel. The experts from both parties also swarmed in from behind. The entire sky became empty as the many individuals charged into the tunnel. Only that ancient large door continued to quietly stand above the sea of magma.